Hey gang. So I had a rough go of it last week. We're going to try it again anyway. My name's Dan. This is Daily Art Adventure number 37. On the road again. Woo-hoo! Painting in my hometown, downtown Raleigh, North Carolina. This right here was my stock in trade. It's what I did full time for about 15 years. Before most of you knew me, of course, I was a painter of plein air paintings, mostly in cities, mostly in downtown Raleigh, North Carolina. So I have you way set back from me. I'll bring you up here in a little bit. Doing a whoops mild crisis, or maybe more than mild. I didn't check my acrylic paints before I left the house. I just assumed. Oh no, I'm in worse shape than I thought. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, we're going to have a little break here in a bit because I need to run to my van, which is only about 1 block away, and get some of my emergency acrylic paints out of that, because I don't have yellow, I don't have white, and I don't have ultramarine. So those are pretty important. You can't mix anything, if you know what I mean. You can't mix anything and get ultramarine. That right there is phthalo blue. Oh, it's good to be on the road again. And I think it's January 20th or 19th. It might be the 20th. By the time I got ready to start broadcasting, all my phones were being used up, so I didn't have the option of backing out of an app to see what the date was. Sorry about that. Anyway, today's Thursday. Is it the 20th? I'm completely out of touch. All right. Well, I guess I'll paint a little bit more before I run off. And it is unseasonably warm here in Raleigh, North Carolina. Out here in shirt sleeves. I love it because this is the only day this week that I could do this. And here the weather is pretty near perfect. So yeah, who for that? Okay, now some opaque white. I said I don't have white, and I don't. I've just about used it all up. So some of you have seen me paint before. Hello, Foxhole Willie. The white car. Good to see you. Good to hear from you. All right. So, I was going to say, those of you who've seen me, the abstract underpainting is almost meaningless. In fact, sometimes you suspect this, I know, but sometimes when the painting is all finished, I'll look at it and say, none of the underpainting is showing at all. But guess what? That's okay, because all I care about is that the final painting is a good painting, right? And more times that, I think I got some feedback going on here. There are more times that when the painting is all finished, there are little tiny bits here and there of the abstract painting that shows through. And I let it show through if I need it. You know, if I this big blob of white paint there. And if I get to the end, near the end of the painting, and I wish that there was some abstract stuff showing through, and it's not, it's too late, right? So, now I'm not answering the whole question, obviously. Like, well, why would you want abstract stuff to show through anyway? Yeah, I've talked about that enough. I'll talk about it some other time. I just don't have the energy today. So, but I will add that of all the abstract things that I do, the initial abstract stuff that I do, the one that shows up the most, you know, my body was not made for suspenders. What is it? Extremely narrow shoulders? I don't know. Oh, you can't tell. I'm dressed up underneath this apron and vest. Anyway, the one color that shows up the most is white. Isn't that interesting? Not because of the color, but because of the texture. The white acrylic paint is thicker, and it leaves streaks. And again, that would drive a realist, a committed realist. That would drive them berserk, because what they're trying to do is, you know, copy stuff. But of course, I want to copy stuff. That is to say, I'm going to do accurate representational work. I do, you know that. But more important than accurate representation is line, shape, color, design, value, texture. Line, shape, color, design, value, texture. 6 of them. Line, shape, color, design, value, texture. 6 of them. The elements of design. All right, and I'm going to I'm not going to let the camera keep rolling. I need to run to my van, and I hope I have all the emergency colors that I'm supposed to have there. So, sorry about that. Pause. You guys watching this in replay doesn't matter a bit. I painted foxholes. Daughter, what, a year and a half ago now, I think? Then you can see some of it. Says my abstracts are incredible. Thank you. I love abstract painting, and my abstracts, well, never mind. I do teach abstract painting. One of the categories, major impulses, in my opinion, in abstract painting is kinesthetic, the movement, body movement, arms, hands, and my abstracts are very dependent on that element. All right, and I did have plenty of yellow, ultramarine, and white. That's all I got. Now, let me take a minute to show you the scene that I'm painting here today. The light is terrible at the moment. It's gotten all cloudy. It was sunny a while ago, but that's all right. I have taken pictures. So there's basically the building that you see across the parking lot there is commonly called Memorial Auditorium. It's actually 4 auditoriums, I think, all stitched together, and it has a fancy name that I'm not going to bother you with. But here's a photograph that it's a composite of about 6 or 7 different photographs there that I put together in Photoshop, and that's what I'm actually painting. And what is it, you may ask, that makes an artist break his nearly 3-year hiatus of I quit painting downtown basically when COVID hit, like everything else. There was nobody here. It wasn't much fun to paint when there was nobody here. I didn't have any commissions to paint it. Anyway, so it's been quite a while since I painted downtown, and what causes me to get back down here? You got it, money. Filthy lucre. I have a nice commission that a very nice family here in Raleigh wants me to do for them. It is going to be a painting of this street scene, as you can no doubt, you can figure that part out yourself. But it is going to include, down here in this corner, their two boys, Alex and Ben, who are young, brilliant, aspiring bluegrass fiddlers. Isn't that great? So I came down here a week or more ago and took the picture basically you just saw a minute ago when the sun was shining, and then I came back again this past week, just a few days ago, and took a number of pictures of Ben and Alex playing their fiddles there on the sidewalk. This afternoon, there's Ben and Alex right there. Spitting image, right? You recognize them anywhere. And then this afternoon, before I came downtown to paint, I cobbled it all together the way you do in Photoshop. This is going to be one of those classic one-point perspectives, isn't it? Because this building here is going to be all these lines converging somewhere, and the lines on the sidewalk, and I did not bring my yardstick, so I'm a little bit short-handed. But I'll just try to get close. Probably what I'll do is get close. I'll be out here for an hour and a half or so, and I'll try to get close, and then of course I'll make improvements after I get home. Right now I have a lot of wet paint on the canvas, which means I can't do much. So I'm going to do that trick that you see me often do. Come on. My live chat is... There we go. Hang on. I have two brushes that are just barely damp, not soaking wet and not dry, and I'm running them through all the thick bits of paint. You know, you make a mark with acrylics, some part of that mark will be real thick and that'll take a long time to dry. Yeah. So what I'm doing right now is smearing, spreading out those thick bits so that they'll dry quickly, so that I can follow it very soon. I'll rinse these brushes off, of course, so that I can come back very soon and apply another layer of acrylics. So very critical to my technique, my approach to painting. Yeah, that's not dry either. Critical to my approach to painting. I do acrylics underneath and oil on top. It's a long story how I accidentally just stumbled on this over 20 years ago, and I like it. I still like the technique. But critical to the technique is that the layers of acrylic are all transparent. So what I just said, layers of acrylic, in my world, that's meaningless if those layers are not transparent. If they're opaque, what does it matter? You could have 747 layers of acrylic paint on your canvas, but if everyone is opaque, it doesn't matter. All you're going to see is the last color that was put on, right? But if they're transparent, then every layer where it hasn't been covered up by opaque, which there'll be some opaque, but every layer peeks through. And that is, as I said, that is critical to my approach to painting. And I think it's dry enough now. I'm going to add a little bit of water to my phthalo blue there. I think it's dry enough that I can do a glaze. Oh, you know what? I'm missing something. Hang on a second. Let me go back down here to my storage bin. I should have, yes, a bottle of acrylic medium.
Good evening to you.
Hello.
Question for
Yes,
you.
yes, sir.
I got a 1940 Pontiac right here.
I paint cars.
Yeah. And I wanted to know if you could do a painting of that car for me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, if you go to my website
Okay.
and look at paintings, there's a whole album committed to automotive paintings of cars.
Okay.
What's your name?
Sam.
Hi, Sam.
Hi.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from you.
Okay.
Yeah, take a look at it.
Okay. Okay.
I'd be honored to do that. Yes, sir.
I have plenty that I want to get portraits of them so I can put in my garage.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you, Sam.
I will definitely give you a call.
Okay. Thank you.
Have a great one.
Thank you. You too.
What is your time frame for receiving phone
3
calls?
weeks. You mean from the start to finish till I'm done?
Yeah.
3 or 4 weeks.
Okay. Okay.
Unless you pay me more, 2 weeks.
Okay. Thank you kindly.
You're welcome. That was nice, huh? Sorry you didn't get to see that, gentlemen. I get asked a lot about doing commissions. Frankly, very few of them, and I'm not saying anything about this man, but very few of them ever come to fruition. You know what I mean? But the painting I'm doing today is absolutely, it's the same kind of thing. A man and his wife met me on the street many years ago, and like 10, 12 years ago, said, we're going to pay you to do a painting. And I said, oh, that'd be nice. And here I am. Years later, it's actually happening. How about that? So what you see me doing here, again, and the effect is just about right. I am applying transparent glazes. Now, some of you, if you're perhaps an early journey painter, you might not be familiar with the, hello, Lynn Beasley. I don't know if I got to see you earlier. It's very good to see you. So I'm going to let that blue, no, I'm not. Hang on. Okay, I'm not going to let that dry. Instead, I'm going to go straight to white. And of course, it goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. The white paint is opaque. There is no such thing as transparent white paint. There is some paint company somewhere that actually sells a product that they call transparent white. Here's a quiz. Class, if a paint company sells a bottle of transparent white paint, what should be in that bottle? Yeah, either air or water. Right? Think about it. Transparent white is a complete oxymoron. There's no such thing. The very whiteness of the white connotes that it's not transparent. Anyway. So I am doing opaque white now, although again, as you can see, I am letting it mix profusely, enthusiastically with the colors that are already on. Now I don't mix, for instance up here, I don't mix to the point that I get a nice opaque blue. That would be a waste. Okay, now let me pause right here though, and let me see. Can I zoom up here? Yeah, I can. All right, because again, some of you might be saying, "Oh, wait a minute." A few minutes ago, you were bragging. Forgive me, I don't think I was, but I was explaining that the transparent characteristic is vital, and then I just applied white, opaque white, mixed with blue. So what I've ended up with is opaque blue. Well, you could say that. You'd have to put the word opaque in quotation marks, because what? Because it's not actually opaque, right? In fact, sorry about the noise going by. In fact, one of the challenges about painting with acrylic paints is that they grow more transparent as they dry. So you put them on, they look opaque, and then as they dry, they grow more and more transparent, or translucent more correctly. So, for instance, like, okay, so I've applied opaque, but it's not opaque, it's translucent. So you can easily see that red, that was a bit of watercolor stick. You can see that red line going through there, can't you? You can see the orange paint line there. You can see the blue line there. You can see yellow underneath there. You got the point? So what I'm playing with here is the magic of translucence, not transparent, translucent. And it turns out, again, I'm getting too deep here, but I'll finish the sentence anyway. It turns out the real magic is in the translucent colors. Opaque are the most boring. Transparent, much more interesting, much more fascinating than opaque. But translucent is where the real magic lies. And just in case somebody's watching me who's not familiar with me or my approach to painting, one of the labels, one of the characteristics, if you were looking for a label to stick on Dan Nelson to describe my work, my oil painting work, it would be appropriate for you to say, oh yeah, he's that transparent guy. Okay? Now, I'm not telling you that I have any need to be known as such, but I'm just helping you as a teacher. Where do you fit me in? What is it what are the primary characteristics about my approach to painting? And the word would be transparent. But as I just said a few minutes ago, transparent is beautiful, but translucent is magical. Now, if it gets too thick and becomes opaque, opaque is the boring. Now, most people in 20th and 21st century artists, painters, paint very opaque. There's actually a historical reason for that. I don't have the energy to get into it right now. I'll just leave it at that. Almost everybody paints opaque. Almost, that's 90%, 95%. I'm not by no means unique, but I am unusual. So it is a little bit unusual for someone to paint as transparent as I do. All right, let me get my pencils out here. I have a number of idiosyncrasies that characterize my painting style. One of which I just mentioned is that I paint heavily reliant on transparent colors, and then sort of as a corollary to that, transparent colors. I mean, translucent colors, sorry. I paint transparent, and as a corollary to that, translucent. One of the other idiosyncrasies of my particular painting style, I tell people I didn't set out to be weird, it just turned out that way. But the use of pencils is another weird thing that I do. In case you're wondering, if you're a beginner, if you're not familiar with the art world, hello Monique, good to see you. Hello some person. Yeah, zinc white, you're right, is a more translucent. The word is translucent, absolutely not transparent. But yes, I know what they mean, but I also know that either they're not an English speaker, or they're not an English major, or linguistic specificity does not matter to them. I don't share that. Whatever. I like language to be precise. But yes, zinc white is a more translucent color, a more transparent white than titanium. You are correct, of course. Now, right now, I think that's my vanishing point, and I'm just eyeballing it. I'll make precise corrections. Which brings up an interesting point. Someone might think, well, doesn't that kind of mess up your painting if you paint mistakes and then you have to come back and correct them? And there's an irony here. Brace yourself for irony. You would think that. But in fact, I find that my favorite word is iterative. Iterative means stop, start, stop, start, stop, start. The iterative effect of hammering out a subject matter. The fact you start one direction and you stop, go another, stop, go another. So that, let's say, for instance, let's take this light pole, telephone pole, street light pole right here. I've just drawn it right there. What if later in the painting process I think it should be a half an inch to the left? Then later I think, oh no, should have been a quarter inch to the right. So by the time I'm finished the painting and doing finishing touches, I have pole A, B, C, D, E, right? And you might think, well, isn't that a mess? And the answer is only if you are, bless your little heart, only if you're still stuck in trying to do highly representational, or if being realistic is your highest value goal. Now, I love realism, I really do. I even like looking at other people's super realism. I like every once in a while doing super realism. I do. But I don't think it's the art that moves us human beings the most. If it was, I would do it all the time. So what I'm after, I'm already repeating myself here in one short broadcast. What I'm after is a good painting, and the main thing that makes a painting good, main things are things like interesting line, and it's significant that I'm using pencils even as I say the word line. Interesting line, interesting shapes, line, shape, interesting values, interesting design. What that means is composition, layout, line, shape, color, design, value, texture. I don't know if that's the order I normally say them in. I think I might have just got them out of order. But line, shape, color, design, value, texture. Those are the things that will make a painting stand the test of time. Human beings, should we last another 10,000 years, will still like my paintings if they have interesting line, shape, color, design, value, texture. They may not recognize anything that's in the painting, but they'll recognize, if they're human beings with eyeballs, they will recognize line, shape, color, design, value, texture. Now that's not why I do it for human beings 10,000 years from now. That's just an example of my value. But having said that, please understand now, and I do purely abstract painting sometimes, and I enjoy it very much. But I think the artwork that moves human beings the most is artwork. Hang on, I need to count pillars. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. The artwork that moves human beings the most is artwork that is, in fact, a picture, a rendering of something. Count again. Hang on. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, good. I think I've got the right number there. I do want the right number of pillars. It's important in this case. I could talk about this for hours, but I don't have the energy. I'm saying that a lot these days, aren't I? The artwork that moves human beings the most, in my strong and considered opinion, and I am disagreeing with all of my professors, but they were wrong. The artwork that moves people the most is artwork that is a picture, and I like to, just because I'm ornery, I like to mispronounce the word on purpose. Picture. People like pictures. They do. Contrary to what the 20th century art movements all screamed. No, we don't like pictures. You know, I don't know if you're familiar with that scream, but you see it when you walk into any modern art museum. They declared war on representational painting, unless it was hyper-representational and thereby ironic. So the modern art world is okay with representational painting as long as it's not serious. All right. Anyway, and in my opinion, they're completely wrong. Human beings, ordinary human beings. The only people that don't feel that way are people with MFAs, Masters of Fine Arts degrees. All right. Now I'm getting really ornery. But I'll finish the thought. What do human beings like to see in their art? Picture of something that they recognize. Human movement. They like seeing that an artist took a tool and went. They like seeing a history of human movement. And number 3, they like seeing interesting line, interesting shape, interesting value, interesting line, shape, design, value, texture, interesting ones in all of those. And in each of those, variety is one of the key. Let me see what some of you guys are saying. Thank you, some person. You're exactly right. Transparent paintings glow. That's exactly right. Thank you. Lynn, good to see you. Thank you, Lynn. You are exactly correct. But so should a painting be all transparent? The answer is no. Why? Because the one thing, pretty much that we like more than anything else in the elements of design is variety. Let's take values, for instance. What kind of values do we like? Very dark, very light, and everything in between. That's what, all things being equal. How about color? Do we like warm color or cool color? Right, both. Do we like equal amounts of warm and cool? Now we're getting deep. The answer is no. That creates conflict. We like a ratio. Texture. Do we like what kind of texture do we like? Busy, 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 edgy, gritty texture, or smooth texture? Which one do we like? Both. That's right. Do we like a painting that's half real busy, gritty, I'm saying, and half real smooth? No, that's irritating. Halvesies is irritating. It sets up a conflict. What we like is a painting that's either mostly gritty with some smooth areas, or vice versa. We like a painting that is mostly light with some dark areas. We like a painting that is mostly warm with some cool areas, or vice versa on all of these. Does that make sense? Thank you, Lynn. Thanks for pointing that out. Yes, so indeed. Well, also, the opaque layer, which I typically call the final edit layer, even though it's not the final layer, it's the editing, because when you paint opaque, you're covering up what's underneath. So with the opaque layer or opaque layers, I'm covering up whatever doesn't look marvelous. And I will, very often, I'll leave bits of underpainting showing that are not at all realistic, not representational. They just turned out interesting. So you don't want to cover up all the stuff that's interesting from your underpainting. And that goes back to the original, if some of you were here at the beginning, why do I do an abstract painting, complete abstract painting underneath every representational painting? And the answer is interesting. That, by the way, is particularly helpful if I'm doing a painting that has a lot of empty space. For instance, a sky, an empty sky. Or if I'm painting a wedding reception inside a rather bland building, like it has a big beige wall or a big beige curtain. You can picture that right in in the downtown Marriott, so to speak. And it's beautiful because it has candles and banners and all kinds of stuff. But from an artist's point of view, it's not beautiful because it's just you're just inside a great big cube. And I have been rescued many times from what could be a boring painting. In other words, has either big blue skies or big beige walls. I've been rescued by the abstract painting that I put down at the very beginning. And someone might say, well, if you find yourself getting close to the end of the painting and then you discover that you have big blank areas, listen to this. I'm not sure I've ever said this before. Someone might say, well, why don't you just add some marks at that point? Ooh, good question. Now, in all honesty, you could do that. But why is that not optimal? Why? The answer is because any marks that are applied to a painting, so I'm not talking about a bare canvas, I'm talking about a painting that is 2/3, 3/4, 90%, 95, 99% finished. Any marks that are applied on the top layers, it's obvious that they were done on top. Does that make sense? So if you have a big blue sky, which by the way I'm not going to have in this painting because there's a bunch of trees and everything up here. But if you had a big blue sky, you get in your lens, oh no, I got a big blue sky, I better do some Dan Nelson orange, red, yellow streaks in it. Yeah, but if they're on top, it will look like an afterthought. The fact that my abstract marks are deep inside the painting makes all the difference. At least that's my story. I'm going to stick with it. Okay? So there's a different, now, having said that, I'll go ahead and close the loop. If you were to get nearly done and then find out, oh, I've got this big beige wall, let's say, I'm going to do some abstract marks on it. Yes, absolutely, you can do abstract marks, but you need to come back and then, if it's a beige wall, paint some opaque beige up to and around and beside and a little bit on top of the abstract marks that you made late in the process. Does that make sense? So yes, you can add abstract, and I do that. You know, late in the process, where did my pencil go? You know, I'll say, oh man, I need some marks, and I'll do something like that. What does that represent? Absolutely nothing. You can see that, right? Yeah. But they are not effective until I mix up, say in this case, an opaque blue and paint up to both sides. It's a very funny thing. It's a very idiosyncratic of me that I would actually do something like that. That is to say, whoops, my music system just yelled at me, low battery. So my music will end here in a little bit. I don't know if you can hear it or not, but I like it. I like the atmosphere that it helps me create down here. Oh, that's the end of it right there. They don't give you much warning, evidently. That's my little Bose speaker. Oh no, it's not. What side was the end? Anyway, so I hope that makes sense. So the fact that many of my abstract marks are deep inside the painting gives them a completely different feeling than if they were on top. But if you do some on top, then you have to do some things to push them back, so it's not the last layer. Another way to say that is, I'll call them ironic marks. That's a good name for this abstract stuff, don't you think? The ironic marks don't work very well if they look like an afterthought. It looks like somebody's trying too hard to be creative. It just doesn't work. So there you go. I've never said that before, never said it that way. That's a good way to put it. Ironic marks do not work very well if they're applied late in the process. They look like an afterthought. Doesn't carry the day. In the meantime, I'm having a good time painting. Hey, Uncle. Good to see you. I love it. Hello, Mark Toomey. What fun. Very good. So I've had a lot of fun doing blue. So you'll notice a lot of the stuff, a lot of the tree, the pole, the people up close appear basically black in my photograph. Let me show you. For those who joined me here recently, right? By the way, I'm painting on location, right? You understand that, right? I do this. This is ideal, really. If you do a plein air painting, it's ideal to be able to have a photograph. It's cheating. Sure, it's cheating. Yes, that is a compliment, Uncle, that it looks so messy. So all of the stuff I just did blue is black, but I'm not going to do black. That would be horrible. And the blue is just my first layer of dark-ish color. I'll come back with other layers of transparent later. I think it's time for me to go back and do some white, don't you think? Uncle is complaining about how messy it is. Now, and here's where a photograph really is helpful. Let me show you my scene again. There go some joggers. A little bit of life. This is a very boring, the light is not, other than a little bit of sky way up there in the right, it's pretty boring scene. The good news is I was here a few days ago and took some pictures. We're facing south this way, by the way, And so the sun is setting to my right, to our right, and I'm behind the building. This is a hotel, and the sunlight is coming right up the street. That's a major, major element. I'll show you the photograph again. That's a major element in this painting, is this shaft of light. And it goes right across there. The boys playing fiddle, we've talked about this before. The boys playing fiddle are a key psychological focal point, right? I think that is a term that I think every artist should be familiar with. I've never heard anybody else talk about it. We all know what a focal point is, right? And a focal point becomes a focal point because of line, shape, color, design, value, texture, contrast, hard edges, all kinds of things, right? Create a focal point. But in addition to the visual focal points, there are psychological focal points.
No battery.
So most commonly that consists of, in a landscape, or in this case a cityscape, if there's only one or two human beings in the scene, they will attract huge amounts of attention, and that's what I call psychological attention, right? Now it can get a lot more subtle than that, by the way. Let's just imagine you're, as I was several years ago, you're in New York City. I forget which neighborhood I was in, but I was painting a row of brownstones. So just imagine you're painting a row of brownstone houses with the trees and the sun coming through the leaves and splotching, spangling the houses. And let's say up close to your viewpoint you have a porch, stairs, like a brownstone, and you put one roller skate on the stairs. That's a psychological focal point. Get it? Why? Because it pertains intimately to human existence, human experience, human life, and so forth. Likewise, you could be doing a painting of a porch, sweet southern porch, for instance. Lovely, lovely porch. Sun reflecting off the balustrade, shining up on the ceiling of the porch. Blah blah blah. You put a cat in the rocking chair, and boom, you have instantly psychological focal point, right? You put a crutch leaning against the door. Get it? But the most typical psychological focal point, of course, is simply a person. Now, this painting, as you saw, is going to have a whole bunch of people. It looks to me like there's about 30 people here. So they're not a psychological focal point because there's too many of them. But separate from them and playing fiddle are these two boys set in contrast to the mob. They are definitely a psychological focal point. So that's all. It's just something to be aware of. And it is nice to be able to include those psychological focal points, which most of the time means human beings. It is nice to be able to include those in your scenic paintings. So here I'm not talking about a figurative painting, you know, the classic female nude or female clothed, you know, the classic, or male, of course. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a landscape, or in this case, a cityscape that has a figure in it. And in order to do that, you have to do some homework. Do I hear an amen? Because if you start trying to throw human figures in your painting, as soon as you introduce a human figure, you had better be pretty darn close. Because people will not forgive you. Your mother will say, "Oh, darling, that's lovely." If you have a spouse, not like my spouse, you may have a spouse that will say, "Oh, baby, that's a lovely painting." If your spouse is like that, I envy you. More than that, you have to have somebody else critique your artwork, because that kind of person they're just gonna, like your mom. A mama's job is to tell her kid that she's wonderful. He or she is wonderful. The daddy's job is to tell him, "Kid, find something else." You can always find the people on America's Got Talent or whatever, the ones that are really bad, By the way, that's kind of mean, isn't it? But anyway, they know they're mean. They know they're bad before they, Anyway, but those people needed dads. Evidently, all they had was moms, and their mom said, "Oh, darling, you seem wonderful." I'm probably getting myself in buckets of trouble here to declare that there are any gender distinctives in our culture is highly unpopular, right? That's right. I plan to stick around till they're popular again. Here's a trick worth noticing. Are we broadcasting? I don't know if anybody watching me right now. Doggone, it's lonely out here. I'm being silly, of course. No, you do not need. All you who are not watching me, don't feel bad. Really, no. I promise. No, don't feel bad. No, don't feel bad at all. No. There is particular and peculiar is really a more to the point benefit or advantage in painting in white or light would work as well. In painting a layer or painting layers of light color. Oops, I've got a mistake here. Drawing mistake. Okay, so this is classic, right? Classic drawing mistake. Now, if I was a beginner, I might be going, "Oh, shakalaka." Thank God I'm not a beginner. Well, it's still a mistake. It's not quite a perspective. So I thought that this line was here.
Low battery.
And then I discovered, oh, it's in the wrong place, supposed to be up here. So now I have both lines there. Is that bad? No, it actually will add to the interestingness. If I can make up that word. It will actually add. Now I'm going to do something that I do not terribly often. I'm mixing up some white with orange and yellow. So I'm actually going to paint some opaque stuff right now. So that this is sort of against the rules of Dan Nelson painting, to paint opaque color. The rule is all color is transparent, and all lightness is white. Does that make sense? Everything that I want lighter, I achieve that lightness effect by painting white, which is what you've seen me doing up until this point. So I give myself permission, as you can see, to cheat, so to speak, and I'm doing a little bit. That's probably all I'm going to do, is right there. And the reason for that is mostly because I'm afraid I'm going to get confused. And while I'm mindful of what's happening right here, right now, I'll do it an opaque color so that it's clear to me that's a wall. Why is it that light? Well, the photograph is helping me a lot in this regard because there's brilliant sunshine hitting the street here, and it's bouncing back quite a bit of it onto this wall. Now, having done white for a little while, it's time for another layer of dark, and I'm going to graduate to some smaller, slightly smaller brushes, and I'm going to change color quite considerably. I'm going to go with, I know it's going to be red. Question is how much purple in it. I want sort of a fuchsia, and my red, by the way, is already a cool red, like magenta. If any of you try to experiment in the world of transparent painting, there is no such thing, trust me, there's no such thing as transparent red. Transparent red does not retain the sense, the impact, of redness. Transparent red becomes, if it gets thin, it turns into pink, and pink is not red. Does that make sense? Okay, now here this is kind of fun. This is classic. The last time, well, with my pencils and with my blue transparent, I thought that these are like walk, do not walk signs attached. I thought they were up here. They're actually supposed to be quite a bit lower. So these are the new ones. Old ones, new ones. And these may end up being, probably will be not, they're not correct either. The old ones stay there. I don't get mad and cover them up or anything like that. Anything that needs covering, I will do it strategically, carefully, thoughtfully in the final edit layer. Now at the moment, I'm confirming that I actually do want this pole right here. One of the advantages of doing this, again, what I call iterative drawing, start, stop, start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. That's what iterative means. To iterate means to start, stop. I can't say it quickly. On, off, on, off, on, off. One of the advantages of this is that I don't have to get the drawing right first time. I get many, many, many chances to make corrections to get it right. Does that make sense? And again, please understand that the quote-unquote the mistakes actually are not detrimental. They actually are beneficial. They actually help. The effect, the finished effect of the painting is line, shape, color, design, value, texture. Especially texture is aided, is helped by the quote-unquote the mistakes that are made. So I was wrong about my little Bose speaker. It tells me my battery is low, but the first time it said that, it was about 10 or 15 minutes ago, so they do give me some warning. So basically what you see me doing right now is drawing again, iterative. So I don't call every layer drawing. Like when I pick up a brush this wide and do bold layer glazes, I don't call that drawing, right? I call this drawing. When I have brushes this big, and sometimes in fact am even outlining stuff. That's like I'm doing right here. I call this drawing. And that's why it's stop, start, stop, start. Because I'll draw for a while, and then I'll do a values or a color thing. And then I'll come back and draw again, and then go away and do another values or color thing. But right now, I am definitely drawing. And I hope you caught that the mistakes, so to speak, if you want to call them that, the mistakes that you make actually serve to make the finished painting better. Let me put that another way. Again, and I'm some of you, I know, you're like me, like I was, in many, many, many years of my drawing, my art journey. I was primarily concerned with representation, with accurate rendering, with accurate drawing, right? You know, if you're not that type, at least you know the type that I'm talking about, right? And that was me, and it served me quite well as a professional illustrator. It was really helpful that I wanted to draw things realistically, because frankly, that's what most of, other than the cartoons, which I did thousands of, that's what most of my clients wanted. So it served me quite well, and I learned because of that too. I also learned how to draw very well because my livelihood depended on it. Got it? But it was a pretty radical turn in my life in about 2003 or 4. Oh, you know what? hang on. Here's funny. I've got an entire tree. By the way, just for what it's worth, in Photoshop earlier this afternoon in my office, I removed an entire tree because I decided, rightly so, that there were too many of them here. Oh, wait a minute, where is that tree? Looks to me like somebody agreed with me and removed a tree. Could that be? Anyway, that's funny. Anyway, there's a whole tree here that I think is important that I haven't even started to draw yet. So there we go. That's the beginning of it. By the way, did you see how I did that? That was a clinic right there on how to paint trees. Bare tree. I'm talking to you about trees that are not full of foliage, leaves. So it was about 19 or 20 years ago, and it's a long story. I won't give it to you right now, but I had an epiphany, probably a couple of them, and I began to understand the magic of abstraction. I will give credit to my college professors for having tried to convince me of that decades earlier, but they didn't really know why. Never mind. I don't want to get into critical of my professors. Again, I've done that enough over the years. So everything that I'm saying here about line, shape, color, design, value, texture, history of human movement, of course, should be a complete befuddlement to those of you who are still in the representational phase of your journey. And many people never do make the jump to hyperspace. Many people make wonderful careers out of doing. Many are more famous than me, you know. So there's a lot of really good painters that do highly representational stuff and never do anything else, and that's all right. That's quite all right. So I'm not criticizing them. It sounds like a little bit, but I'm not. But I do believe I've discovered a better way for myself. All right. That's enough of that red. I wonder what I'm going to do next. Oh, I'm gonna do values large, so this is not drawing. Let's go to big brush stuff. I did a glaze down here early on, and I thought it was dark enough. Boy, was that funny. Was I wrong? Are we broadcasting okay? I don't know if we are or not. I'm going to keep on anyway. All right. I'm going to mix ultramarine and violet, dioxazine violet and ultramarine. And that's way too intense, I can tell. And I'm going to pour acrylic medium onto these brushes. You can use water, of course, as a medium in acrylics, but if you do, it'll mostly run off your canvas, right? Have you ever had that experience? So you put it on, it looks great. 10 minutes later, it's like, wait, where did it go? Where'd all that dark stuff go that I put on there? Yeah, well, you used water, so it mostly ran off onto the floor. By the way, I'm on a sidewalk today, but I do have a 4 by 6 foot carpet underneath me. There we go. That's looking a little better. Here, of course, I'm looking for large blocks of darker value. Thanks for your comment, some person. I resonate with that very much.
When I started with them? Yeah, third or fourth. Okay.
Well, I know what I'm going to do next. I'm going to do another layer of glazing. Oh, this would be good for some of you, especially if you're not familiar with my approach. You maybe saw that you can still see the effect that I did white, and I call it opaque, but it's actually translucent because there's stuff showing through. I did white on the face of this building and white on this street right here and up here in the sky, and little bits here and there, but those are the main things. I don't want those areas to be white at all. Well, why did I do them white then? Because I knew that I was going to come along like I'm going to do right now and do transparent glazes on top of what's white. Does that make sense? So I'm going to mix up on my brushes some yellow, some orange, the right mixture of yellow and orange. Of course, you don't have to have orange in your, like I do, pre-mixed. It's just a convenience. That's all it is, as is the green. Just saves me one little bit of mixing. All right, and then the acrylic glaze again. Okay, it's too light. Easy fix. And a lot more warmth up here in the sky, in the reflection of the sky over here. Yeah, more warmth up here in the sky. Does this look like fun to you? I hope it does. It really is. If it doesn't look like fun, you're missing something. It's such a fun way to paint. That's why I do it this way. I like the effect and I like the process. All right, now it's very obvious what I am supposed to do next. There's no white anywhere on the canvas anymore. In fact, there's nothing, the lightest bits are there and there. Maybe there. That would be a number 2 or 3 level on a 10 degree grayscale. There's no 0 or 1 or 2. So the next thing I'm going to do is, again, I call it opaque white, but it's, of course, more literally speaking, translucent. But I think I'm going to call it a day with you guys. All right? It's been fun. You saw the most fun part of the painting process. I'll do several more layers of acrylics and then graduate to oils on top of the acrylics. Thanks for watching. Leave me your comments. I hope to be back again soon. Bye-bye.